Hey guys, how are you all? Hope so you all are doing well. Okay, so let's start the story. Without any further conversation, the weather is so beautiful, but it's too late. A boy sits on the bed. He is busy with his colors and notebook until the door open. A lady come in the room and see him. Mrs. Min, Jimin. Jimin look at her. Jimin, yes, he answer innocently. Mrs. Min, where is Yoongi? You know why he don't come yet? Jimin see the time. It's 11 p.m. He don't notice the time. Mrs. Min, you are his. How can you be Jimin? Jimin auntie, I call him. He said and tried to find his phone. Mrs. Min, seriously, I did the biggest mistake to let. She said, and Jimin stays silent. He don't say anything. Mrs. Min, my son deserve don't understand what I do with him. Listen, Jimin, I am telling you yourself. Jimin nodded a little while looking down, and the door opened. Jimin and Mrs. Min eyes widen when they see Yoongi is and Jungkook help him. He's not even in. Jimin stand on the corner, see all this with his shocked eyes. Mrs. Min, my son, what happens? Jungkook, nothing happens, auntie. He said, and the come who started to him. Jungkook, see Jimin. Jungkook, auntie, take Jimin out from the room, please. He said, and Mrs. Min hold Jimin hand and Jimin, no, no, don't do this. I want to see him. He said, well, fell from his eyes, but she don't listen. After almost one hour. Let him take some rest. He need, he said, and Jungkook nodded. No, can I go? Jungkook go. He said, he see Yoongi who's sleeping because of Mrs. Min enter in the room. Mrs. Min, what happens? Jungkook, nothing, auntie. We are coming home and someone. Mrs. Min, he is fine, right? Jungkook, yeah, he is. You go and take some rest. Mrs. Min nodded and she go. Jungkook turned and he see Jimin who stand on the door saying Yoongi. Jungkook how on Jungkook know how much Jimin is innocent and how much Yoongi. Jungkook, Jimin, come here. Jimin eyes is on Yoongi. Jungkook, he is sleeping. He's fine, just sleeping. Jimin, Cookie here. Jimin, Cookie Hyun can how can it happen? He said, well, Jungkook, don't you know Yoongi? When you he is sleeping. He wake up in morning. Jungkook said, and he Jimin and start after some times. Jungkook back. Jungkook, now you also take some rest and take care of him, okay? Also, Jimin nodded hurriedly and Jungkook left the room. Jimin see Yoongi who's sleeping. He go and on the side he don't him not him as he don't want to Yoongi. He kept there continue to he don't know when the night pass. Jimin don't sleep for a minute. He just saying Yoongi how can it happens. He's hmm thinking this next day. Next day, Jimin sits beside Junggi when he slowly open his eyes. Jimin see him. Jimin Hyun. He call him. Yoongi open his eyes and he see the ceiling when Mrs. Min come. Mrs. Min, my son, you okay? Jimin see his mom and nodded. Miss Jimin get up from the as Mrs. Min give him. He take his steps back. Mrs. Min, I become so for you, my son. I stay here, but you wake up now, she said, and Jimin stay silent. Yoongi, Jimin, he said, and Jimin look up. Yoongi turn his face and he see Jimin who stand on the side. Yoongi, come here. He said, and Mrs. Min stand silently. Jimin went to him and he sit. beside him uh, fell from his eyes. Yoongi don't you know Hyung? No Hyung? When you Jimin Hyung? He starts while Yoongi to see him. He somehow sit on the and see him. Jimin is Yoongi Hyung. Please, Mrs. Min, see this. See this. She go from there. She go from there. Jimin don't want anything. He just wants Yoongi come here. Jimin sign as no Jimin. I don't want to you. He said while Yoongi smiled to him. Yoongi come here. Jimin see him. He slowly went to him. Yoongi take him in. Yoongi now I am feeling peaceful. He said and Jimin Hyung how this how this happens. Yoongi, I just had a small, nothing else, but I am fine, Jimin. I don't let you go. You go out from home now, Hyung. I promise. He said, and Yoongi chuckled. Yoongi, really? Jimin, yes, Hyung. Now you stay at home, Yoongi. I really make my that, huh? Jimin nodded. Yoongi, so can you're Hyung? Jimin nodded. Jimin, I do, but if you promise this, you never promise this never happens again. Yoongi, this not leave this, he said, and he see Jimin is feeling sleepy. Yoongi, you don't sleep all night. Jimin nodded. Yoongi, sleep now. Jimin, you also take resting. Yoongi, I will, but you sleep now, he said, and Jimin nodded. He closed his eyes and fell in sleep. It's evening when Jimin wake up. He see Yoongi is looking at him with a small smile on his face, and then he realized how he sleep. He sits properly. Jimin, you okay? I don't. You right? Yoongi sign as no. Yoongi, no, you don't. Jimin nodded. Jimin, you must be hungry. I set maid to make soup for you. Yoongi, I am fine. Just stay here. Jimin, I come home in 10 minutes, he said, and he go downstairs. Jimin come downstairs. In the kitchen, he see Mrs. Min stand there talking with maids. She see Jimin and turn toward him. Jimin looking down. He don't said anything. Mrs. Min, may I know the reason? What are you doing here? Jimin, auntie, Young is hungry. Mrs. Min saw Jimin. I come to set maid. She makes soup for him. Mrs. Min, she is busy. Do by yourself, she said. And Jimin become tense. He don't know how to make a soup as Yoongi never allow him to do cooking. How can he make soup for him? They leave Jimin in the kitchen and go. Jimin is so how can he make soup for Yoongi and he is hungry. Start to collect the ingredients. He don't know what ingredients he need until a maid come. She look here and there. Mrs. Wen is not here. Maid Jimin, sir. Jimin look up and see her with maid. Don't cry. I'll make for him. Jimin her heard and he nodded hurriedly. She smiled and started to make soup. In this time, Jimin thinks so many things. Why he is like this? Why he? How can he let his Hyung so he his Hyung deserves someone better. His mom is right. Jimin think all this when maid gave him soup. Maid, here is your soup. Jimin, thank you so much, maid. It's okay, Jimin sir. You can go now. Jimin nodded with a smile. He take the soup and go in the room. Jimin come and see Yoongi eyes is closed. Jimin sit beside him carefully. Yoongi open his eyes and see Jimin. He smiled. Yoongi, you come. Jimin nodded and and give him soup. Yoongi sits, but Jimin sees and Jimin, Yoongi, it's okay, Mini. I do by myself. Jimin, no, you are. He said, and Jimin started to him so carefully. Yoongi see him. Yoongi, sorry. Jimin, why? He looked at him innocently. Yoongi, I have to do all this for you, but I am not doing sorry for bothering you, Jimin. No, Hyung. Nothing happens. It's okay. You take care of me a lot. Yoongi smiled to see Jimin. Jimin continued when Jungkook come. Jungkook, I think I disturb. I disturb someone. Jimin see Taehyung. Jimin Taehyung. He go and Jim. Taehyung, how are you? You, bestie. I'm sorry. I was not with you when you want me the most, Jimin. It's okay. You don't know anything. Otherwise, you come. He said and smiled. Chang, yes. How are you, Hyung? He bunny tell me just some times ago, Jungkook. If I tell him, and he come, Jungkook chuckled to say him, Yoongi, I'm fine, Chang. It's just nothing, Chang. Seriously, Hyung? You said this. It's nothing, huh? Look at yourself. Jimin, I also said this, but Jung skipped saying this. It's nothing. Jung, don't listen him. Take care of him, Jimin. Jimin, I do, he said innocently. And Yoongi just want to hide him in away from the. They all sit and started talking and laughing with each other. Yoongi see Jimin is so happy with Taeyang. His mood changed a lot. He is happy with Taeyang. Taeyang, now Hyung, if you do something like this, I take my best friend with me so no one take care of you. Then you realize, Yoongi, this is Taeyang. Jimin, this is right, huh? You are saying this, Hyung, like you still have planned to do something like this. He said with a pout. Yoongi, never for you. Jimin smiled to see him. Jiang, you are the first person with whom I am my best friend. Yoongi, really? I am with you. Jiang, no, Hyung. We know each other from childhood. Yoongi, but see I come in his life just years ago and to me more. Jimin look at Jimin. Jiang, really? Jimin, don't ask me this question. You both have your own places. Jungkook, you guys did here with Jimin. Jimin, yes. Jungkook, see, if I said I Taeyang more Hyung don't talk with me. And if I said I Hyung Taeyang don't talk with me. Jungkook, leave them. You said to your brother more. Jimin, yes, he said, and Yoongi roll his eyes. Yoongi, whatever, who cares about you here, Jungkook? Taeyang signed. Taeyang, unfortunately me. He said, and Jimin starts giggling. Taeyang, done. You come home, and then see who cares. He said, and Jimin see them. Taeyang become, and he see Jungkook. Yoongi signed to see them. Jungkook, what happens? Why you are feeling? He asked, being confused. Young, nothing. And why would I do? I do, huh, Jimin? But you do. Yoongi, no, he don't. He said, Jimin, see Yoongi, but he nodded. Yoongi, can you bring a glass of water for me? Jimin nodded quickly and he ran in the kitchen to bring water. Yoongi, guys, don't forget, Jimin is so innocent. Chiang said this to him, Hyung. I don't do anything. Yoongi, you bunny. Innocent, huh? Jungkook, I think you have planned to. Yoongi, why? He raised his eyebrows. Jungkook, as you are not. And telling to him. So of course, he said. Then Yoongi could speak. Jimin come with a water. He Yoongi to Chiang smile. Chiang, Hyung be fine soon. Yoongi, just 2 days. Taehyung, I will be fine. Jimin, but you don't go on work till I said Yoongi like this. I don't go for my Jimin. I don't know. I said it's mean. I said Taehyung as your order. He said and Jimin smiled to see him. Jungkook, okay, brother, you take rest now. We should go. Jimin, stay for some more times, please. Taehyung, I come to meet you tomorrow, bestie. Jimin become happy and nodded. They meet with each other when Jungkook and Taehyung go from there. Jimin see Yoongi. Jimin, you take rest now. Rest now. Yoongi, Jiminy, listen me. Jimin, yes, Yoongi, you eat something. Eat something or not? He asked, and Jimin realized he don't eat anything. Jimin, I eat now, Yoongi, seriously? See, it's almost lunchtime and you don't do breakfast? Jimin, I forget. Yoongi, huh? Seriously? Jimin, sorry, you take rest. I promise I eat. Yoongi, no. Sit here, he said in voice, and Jimin stayed silent. Yoongi called made bow at him. Yoongi, go and bring something for Jimin. He said, and Jimin could speak, but he stopped as Yoongi gave him. He know how much Yoongi is for him. Jimin, you sleep. I promise. I eat. Yoongi, I don't sleep till you eat. Jimin nodded and mates come and place lunch in front of Jimin, now you sleep. I eat. Yoongi, I will. First you do lunch. Yoongi, do as I said. He said and Jimin nodded. He start to do the lunch when Mrs. Min comes. Jimin don't feel. Why would he do now? His Yoongi's here. He know. Yoongi don't let anyone said something to him. Mrs. Min is his. Mrs. Min, how are you? Are you feeling now, son? Yoongi, I am fine. His voice is as usual calm voice. Mrs. Min, you must be hungry. Eat something, son. She said, sure. Yoongi, I already do. I am fine. Mrs. Min, don't look like this, she said, and Jimin just nodded. Yoongi, I am fine, just need some rest. He said, and Mrs. Min nodded. Mrs. Min, you should take rest. Jimin, it's enough now. Please, enough now. Enough now. Sleep, he said, and Yoongi see Jimin finishes lunch. Yoongi, good. Mrs. Min, you take care. Take care of yourself, son. Sleep now, he said, and Yoongi, hold Jimin hand. Yoongi, you stay here. Don't go anywhere. Jimin, I don't go. Young, sleep, he said innocently, and Mrs. Min sighed. She go from there. Jimin, sit beside Yoongi. Okay. Some days pass. Yoongi much he's fine, like he start to and he do his all work on his laptop and phone as Jimin don't give him permission to join office, and how can he don't listen him. Now also he is walking in the garden while talking with his secretary on the phone. Someone come and Jim Yoongi see the small hands. He smiled. Yoongi cut the call. He turned and see Jimin. He back him. Yoongi Mai is looking so happy today, huh? Jimin Hyung, I show you something, he said and bag. Jimin show him a picture of flower bracelet. Yoongi, this is beautiful. Jimin, right? Young, I want this. Yoongi chuckled to see him. Jimin nodded. Jimin, but I want you make this for me. Yoongi, uh-huh. He see the bracelet. Yoongi, we will try, but I can't set anything if it's good. Jimin, Don't matter, Young. I want you make for me. It's enough. Yoongi, alright, but you have to help me. Jimin, I will, he said, being happy, and then they both sit on the couch with the roses and simple bracelet. They start to make, they're talking, laughing with each other, and at the end, they both finally make the bracelet. Jimin, it's good, Young. See, Yoongi, I'm glad you like, he said with a smile. Mrs. Min, come, Mrs. Min, Yoongi-san. Go in your room and take rest. Jimin, if he is irresponsible, you see. Huh? Hmm. Jimin, I don't notice. Young, it's okay, and I am fine. Jimin, you come here and take rest. Youngie, I am fine. Jimin, but still, come, he said and dragged Youngie. Mrs. Min see him and roll his eyes. Mrs. Min, what I do with this? It's good if I leave them. Third last scene. And Jimin sit on. Jimin sit on the bed as Yoongi is working on his laptop. Is working on his laptop. Jimin see he is reading the and giving reply. Jimin Hyung, how much time it's take, huh? Yoongi always wants Jimin. Yes, because you are. He said, and Yoongi smiled to see him and start to do his work. Jimin see Yoongi is reading. Jimin, what is this? Yoongi, this is the invitation. Jimin, invitation. He asked, being confused. Yoongi, yes, one of the businessmen called me Anna, and it's the invitation. Jimin, so you go. Yoongi, I have to. It's important. He said, and Jimin make all face. Jimin, so when is the Yoongi tomorrow? Why? Jimin, can I come with you? Yoongi, see him. Yoongi, you want to go? Jimin nodded. Yoongi, you sure? Dear people only talk about business. Jimin, it's okay. Taehyung also go. If Jungkook go, Yoongi Jungkook go. Jimin, then I also go with you, please. Yoongi, sure. You will be. I will be so happy if you come you come with me. Jimin smile and being excited. Jimin, okay, I come with you. Yoongi, you can. So now let's sleep. Jimin nodded and Jimin, yes, good night, he said, and Yoongi on his forehead. Yoongi, good night. And next morning, Yoongi is working in his home office, and Jimin is in the room. Sit on the bed. Taehyung sit in front of him as Jungkook come to meet Yoongi. Saw him, so he come along with him. Taehyung, what? Jungkook, help me to find a Jimin, help me to find a good dress. This is first time I go with Jung, so I look good. Taehyung, I understand. Let's see what you have. He said, and they both stand in front of the closet and start to see the dresses. Jimin sit on the bed, let Taeyang choose for him. After some time, Taeyang come and place in front of him. Taeyang, see, this is the Jimin. It's so much. Taeyang, so what? Huh? It's too slightly Jimin, but still Taeyang. Taeyang, no, you this and you. He said and placed a Jimin, that's good. Taeyang, Taeyang, see, I tell you, huh? Do a light. Jimin, okay, mate, come, mate. Jungkook sir is calling you. He said you need to go. He said you need to. Mate nodded. Mate, Jungkook sir is calling you. He said you need to go. Taeyang, see you at best friend. He said, and Jimin become happy and Taeyang go. Jimin sit for some times. It's evening, so he thought to get time skip. Jimin stand in front of the mirror saying, this is the first time he's something like this. He don't know how Yoongi react, so he's being nervous. Yoongi, you are ready? He said, and he looked up. He freeze on his spot to see Jimin. Jimin sees Yoongi is so shocked and it's making him more nervous and confused. Yoongi takes step forward. He stands in front of Jimin. He sat down. Yoongi on his Jimin. Yoongi, it's really you? Jimin, am I not? I not looking good? She asked, being nervous. Yoongi, you are looking like I am feeling proud on myself. He said, then Jimin see him and smiled. Jimin, I am really looking that much good, Young. Youngie, see yourself from my eyes. You can't find word for yourself. He said, and both stand in front of the mirror. Jimin see Yoongi eyes from mirror and his smile. He turn and hide his face. Yoongi chuckle to see him. Yoongi, what happens? Jimin back and see him. Jimin, I am really looking so good, Young. Yoongi. So I leave so many words. That's why the text is short. Hmm. Yes, you are. So you are ready to go? Jimin nodded. Jimin, yes, Young, let's go. He said, and Yoongi held his hand. Second last scene. They they reach on the venue. As they enter, Yoongi can see is on Jimin, and Jimin feeling nervous and on his shoulder. Jimin see him and smile. Jimin, thank you, Young. He said, and Yoongi see him with so much, but his expressions is on his face. They both as move further, and Jimin see Taehyung is so shocked. Young Jimin, you are looking so. He said, and Yoongi chuckled to see him. Jimin chicks turn. Jimin, don't you have any other word said expect this? Taehyung, look at yourself. Jimin become happy and they both each other. Yoongi see him. Yoongi smile. He kept his Jungkook someone being here. He said Dan. Jimin smile. He is feeling. Taeyang, okay, now you both talk about your boring business. Come, best friend, we see the venue. Jimin, can I go? Young. He said Dan. Yoongi smile. They both go. Jungkook and Yoongi start to talk about business, but Jimin, who's laughing and talking with Taeyang, and see the venue. Jungkook sees Yoongi and he smiles. Jungkook, I never see you that much happy before, Yoongi. From when Jimin come in your life, everything is changed. Yoongi, that's true, Jungkook. He is the light in my life, the one and only. He said, and Jungkook chuckled to see him. Jungkook, that's good then, he said, and as they see Taeyang and Jimin, alright, Yoon is feeling sleepy as usual. Hmm. Jungkook, Yoongi, they both best friends are something. Jungkook, Yoongi, they both best friends are something. Jungkook make Yoongi people and we Jungkook on them Yoongi right. He said, and both continue to see their waiter serve them the Yoongi do while who's busy to talk with Taeyang. Yoongi don't know how much what kind of he just seeing Jimin after some times Jimin and Taeyang come Jungkook, you both done with seeing the venue? Jimin, yes, he said, and then someone approached them. Mr. Lee, good evening, Mr. Min and Mr. Jin. It's really nice to see you here, he said with a smile, and they both nodded. Taeyang called as usual. He murmured to Jimin, and Jimin chuckled to see him. Mr. Lee see them. Mr. Lee, who's this to Jimin? While and Jungkook Jin Taeyang, Yoongi Min Jimin. Mr. Lee, oh, he respectfully bow at him. Taeyang, don't do this, uncle, he said. Yoongi and Jungkook tried not to laugh. Mr. Lee, I am not Uncle Jimin. Every uncle said this, uncle. He said, see Yoongi. Yoongi see Jimin. He realized Jimin is in the mood to being. Mr. Lee, not that King Evans is also a Taehyung. That's true. The Kings will. He said, and Jimmy tries his best not to laugh. Jungkook in front of Taehyung. Mr. Lee, Mr. Lee, I see you. See you soon. I see you soon, he said Bo at them and go, Yoongi, what is this? Jimin, what? Yoongi, why so, huh? Jimin, no, I am not young, we just give answer. Jungkook, we can see, he said, and they start to talk with each other. Yoongi don't know he's or something, but he's feeling. Jimin today as Jimin is looking Jimin Hyung, what you are thinking? Yoongi, huh? Nothing. I think we should go. It's late. Jungkook, yeah, I am also thinking this. Taeyang, huh? I am tired. Let's go, Jungkook. Jimin, let's go. They said goodbye to each other and they head back to their home. Hmm. So this is the last scene. Finally, they come home and they come home and Jimin sit on the bed. Jungi see Jimin. He look into another side. He don't want Jimin. Just by Jimin see Jungi Jimin Hyung. You know, he stand in front of him and tell him what he and Taeyang talk and Jungi just see him. Jimin can see Jungi is in. Jimin Hyung, are you even listening me? He said, then Jimin, Yoongi come in the reality. Yoongi, huh? Yeah, I listen. Jimin, what I said. Yoongi, I'm sorry. I was just lost. Please ignore the background voices. My brother is playing cricket. What I said, Yoongi. Jimin, what happened with you, Hyung? You are not. He said, and his smile is so soft and Yoongi sighed. He take a step back. Yoongi, I'm fine. And turned Jimin, hold his hand. Jimin, you never like this, Hyung. Tell me everything is fine. Okay, and turn Jimin, hold his hand. Jimin, you never like this, Hyung. Tell me everything is fine. Yoongi, yes, everything is fine, he said and smiled. Jimin, sit here, you need to. Yoongi has pardon. Yoongi, what? No, I'm fine. Jimin, no, Hyung, sit here. He said, then Yoongi sit and Jimin stand in front of him. He is innocent and he don't know what he is doing. Jimin start to and carefully Yoongi closed his eyes. But how much he do? Jimin continuously is so and Yoongi him Jimin and Jimin look up at he see Yoongi. Alright, and Jimin don't know what he is literally doing. He can see Yoongi, can see Yoongi eyes, but he don't said anything as he don't feel Yoongi as Jimin is Jimin Hyung. Yoongi, you trust me? Jimin nodded without any. Yoongi, can you do something for me? Jimin watching stay from me. I don't want to you, he said, and he don't want to in front of Jimin. No, Hyung, you can never me. I don't go anywhere from you. Jimin, Yoongi, you are not understanding. Jimin, I don't know Hyung, but I don't go. He said, then Yoongi sighed. He don't know how to make him. Jimin is so innocent. He don't even know about. Hmm. All right, nine. Only 5 months was our left. Yoongi, listen, Jimin. Jimin, no, Hyung. I stay here with you. He said, then to the you can set Yoongi as Jimin. It's for him. After some time, Yoongi look at him. Yoongi, me Jimin. If you don't try Jimin, I will not Young. I know you don't me, so don't. He said with a smile, and Yoongi can see Jimin on him. He don't only think can stand up. Jimin holds Jimin. Hyung, you are looking. Yoongi, no, I am fine, Jimin. But Yoongi turned to see him. Yoongi, I am saying last time. Hmm. Okay. And then the third last start. So as I said, Jimin, go and sleep. Otherwise, you will, Jimin. I will never till it's you. He said, and Yoongi see he him and see him Yoongi me, but as a it's for me. He said, and alright, I don't do voiceover on this text. Hmm. Okay. So I don't have any notification also today to count as because of the electricity problem. So you are all please pass the time. Why I even write that much, huh? What I even do? Okay, so last scene and the third last text. I don't do voiceover on this one also. Please ignore the background voices. My brothers is playing cricket and really they are really too much. Okay, so wow, I write too much, huh? I sometimes myself don't understand how can I write that much. Yeah, as okay. Huh. So it's going to be like this, and I think I fell in sleep within these 3 minutes. As the time is not passing early, and I am feeling sleepy. It's always happens with me. It's nothing new for me. Hmm. Okay, so now last scene and the second last text. I don't do on this one also. No, I do. Next day, Jimin open. Yoongi open. Next day, Yoongi open his eyes. He see Jimin who's looking at him. Jimin see Yoongi and his face. Yoongi, look at me. He said, and Jimin looked at him as Yoongi, are you? Jimin sign as no. Jimin, no, you don't. Yoongi, actually, it's he whispered, and Yoongi asked. Yoongi has widened. Yoongi, how you know? Jimin Chang told me. He said, and Yoongi become more shocked. Yoongi, when? He said, and Jimin tell him Chang told him all this in, and Yoongi somewhere sign in real life. Yoongi, I don't need to explain you. Okay, so finally, last scene and the last text to explain you. Jimin giggle to say him. Jimin Hyung. Yoongi, Jimin, now I am. He said, and Yoongi chuckled. He nodded, and him Yoongi, and he said, and Jimin smiled. Okay, so they are happy. Finally, Mrs. Min is saying she sometimes, but Yoongi, everything is fine, and your Yoon is well. This happens with me last time, so yeah. Finally, finish. Now I will go. Okay, so this is also 101. Hope so you all like. If you like, then subscribe and tell me in comments. Bye bye. Take care of yourselves and see you all in the next video soon. Bye. Fine.